Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with a video on World Cup drama, blunders and brilliancies. It's about the 2019 World Cup. Held in Khanty-Mansiysk in Siberia in Russia. It's part of the qualification cycle for the 2020 World Championship. In early 2020 the candidates tournament will be held with 8 players. One of those 8 players will be Fabiano Caruana, who was the runner-up of the last World Championship match. The top 2 finishers of the FIDE Grand Prix will also qualify, as well as the 2 finalists of the Chess World Cup, which this video is about. The top finisher of the FIDE Grand Swiss tournament will also get a spot. 1 player will qualify by rating, and 1 wildcard selected by the organizer. Caruana will be one of the participants, and almost certainly also Ding Liren. As I record this video, he has qualified for the semi-finals of the World Cup, so he may qualify that way, and otherwise he will qualify by rating. If Ding qualifies through the World Cup, then Anish Giri will almost certainly qualify by rating, so he will be hoping that Ding reaches the final of the Chess World Cup. Most chess YouTubers show full games in their coverage of the World Cup. That's what I normally do as well, show games from start to finish. But as an attempt to be different than other chess YouTubers, I will show you a few highlights of the round of last 16 and the quarterfinals, as I've done in earlier videos. You can find my earlier videos in the 2020 World Championship playlist, which I will link at the end of this video. So a few game fragments that I found interesting, and I hope you will too. The first one is from the round of last 16 in the epic clash between the American Grandmaster Jeffrey Zhang and the Polish Grandmaster Jan Krzysztof Duda. They played a total of 8 games against each other to decide on the winner. A very bloody match, lots of games were won, especially with the white colors. But it was 1-1 after the classical games, 1-1 after the rapid, 1-1 after the quicker rapid. And the first blitz game was a draw. This is the position after 23 bishop takes e2 in the second blitz game. If this game would be drawn, the match would go to Armageddon. White is Zhang and black is Duda. The position is objectively equal. It was an Aljochin opening. What strikes is the very poor position of the knight on b6. Material wise, black has an extra pawn, but white has a big attack over the g file. Bishop takes h6, picks up a pawn, and that bishop cannot be taken because of the pin. Good move. And now Duda only has 1 move. He should have played queen c5 check here. The point is that you cannot go to h1 because of rook d1 check and checkmate. So after queen c5 check you have to interpose the queen or the bishop. Let's interpose the bishop to keep our attack going. But then rook d1 check, king f2 and queen f8 check, and this position is equal. According to the engine you have to interpose the knight on f3. Don't think you can take the bishop, because then there is a checkmate and black goes through to the quarterfinals. But after bishop takes h6 in terrible time trouble, Duda did not find queen c5 check. He gave a check with the rook first. Looks logical. King f2 and queen f8 check. And again you cannot take the bishop because queen f1 check. It's not checkmate, but you're going to lose the queen. King e3, rook d3 check with a skewer, picking up the queen. Zhang saw that in the very little time that he had left, and he played knight f3 instead. Very precise move, said Grandmaster Yevgeny Mirosnichenko in a live broadcast. And now rook takes g7 is a big threat. Duda hurried back with his rook covering the g7 square, but now white can pick up the piece. King takes e2, just capturing that bishop, and white is a piece up, and his attack keeps going. King h7 from Duda, knight g5 check, very nice move. You cannot take the rook because of knight takes e6 check, a discovered check, attacking the queen at the same time, and white will win the queen. Duda saw that in the few seconds he had left and went back with the king to h8, unpinning the g-pawn, but knight takes e6 came, attacking the queen, queen f5, bishop takes g7 check, king g8, a discovered check on d4, the rook is giving check to the king, king f7, and the last move of the game, rook f6 check. with a rook fork, winning black's queen after all. Very nicely played by young Jeffrey Zhang, who went through to the quarterfinals after an epic battle against the very strong grandmaster Jan Krzysztof Duda from Poland, which lasted a total of 8 games to sort things out. A screenshot of the handshake, Duda shaking Zhang's hand, congratulating him with the victory. Zhang gave an interview afterwards and he said that he was exhausted. But no rest for him. The next day he had to start his quarterfinal match against the Azerbaijani grandmaster Timur Rajabov. Let me show you a fragment from that match. It is the second classical game. The first one has ended in a draw. In the second game, white Rajabov, black Zhang. It was a Grunfeld Indian opening, and this is the position after the 31st move, rook A8 to D8 by Jeffrey Zhang. White is better. He has attacking chances against black's king. This pawn on f6 is a real thorn in black's side. Rook c to e1 was played by Rajabov, threatening rook e7. A very strong move according to Ding Liren, who was commentating on this game in the live broadcast after he had finished his own game. He showed h5 here as a move, which doesn't work because of rook e8 check. Very strong, you cannot take that rook because then your queen is hanging. And if after rook e8 check you go to h7 instead, then there is rook h8 check. Very spectacular move. Again, if you take with the rook, you lose your queen. And if you take with the king, then there is a mate in 2. Queen h6 check and checkmate on the next move. Very nice. So h5 in this position is not possible. Queen c5 check was played by Zhang. Rook f2 interposing. And now queen c3 was looked at in the live broadcast. Rook e7 is now very strong and white has a winning position. In the live broadcast they showed why queen h6 does not work here with the checkmate threat because of queen takes e1 check, king h2, and then the very nice saving move for black, rook h3 check. Forking king and queen, so you have to take. If you take with the pawn, then there is queen takes f2 check, and black will pick up the f6 pawn next, and there's no more checkmate. Black wins. If after rook h3 check you take with the queen, then queen takes f2 as well, and you're gonna pick up the f6 pawn to deal with white's threats. Black wins. And finally, if after rook h3 check you take with the king, then queen h1 check with a skewer, king g3, queen takes h6, and black wins as well. So all that after rook f2, which was played in the game, and then queen c3. We saw a few very nice variations there, which Ding Liren showed. In the game, Zhang played his rook to c3. If you now play queen h6, threatening checkmate, then there is queen f8, covering the g7 square. Rook e7 was played by Rajabov, and rook c2 is possible. This move was looked at in the live broadcast. And then rook takes f7 is an option. Here, black can save himself with rook takes f2. But the nice variation is after rook takes f7 that you take that rook, and then the queen comes in, king f8, and checkmate. Nice checkmate, the bishop taking the e8 square away. In the game, after rook e7, rook c1 check was played instead of rook c2. That's not a good move, because now white's attack is decisive. King h2, rook back to c3, and queen h6 was the last move of the game. White wins. What to do against queen g7 checkmate? You have one check, but then rook f4 is a nice move. That rook is protected by the queen, and there's nothing reasonable against queen g7 checkmate. Timur Rajabov won and went through to the semifinals. Zhang did not give that final check. He resigned after queen h6, and this is a screenshot of the handshake. A lot of drama in another quarterfinal between Yu Yangyi from China and Nikita Vityugov from Russia. And this picture shows a big blunder from Vityugov. Let's see what happened there. It was game 5 of their match, 1-1 after the classical games, 1-1 after the rapid games, and this is the first of the shorter rapid games. White Yu, black Vityugov. It was a Spanish opening, and this is the position after the 56th move, rook e2 to e3 from Yu Yangyi. A rook endgame with all pawns on one side, 3 against 2, which is a draw, especially in the hands of strong grandmasters. But you played on. Rook a2 check from Goff, king g3, rook b2, waiting, and h4. Goff did not want to take on h4, because then white gets a passed f-pawn. He just waited with rook a2. Rook e7 check, and here's the big moment. Black has to be careful. King g6 does not work, because then you lose your h-pawn with h5 check, king f6, and rook h7. And there's nothing you can do against losing that h-pawn. But after rook e7 check, the correct move is king f6. Goff had enough time and should have found this move. Instead, he went to g8 with the king, and that was the moment that we just saw on the screenshot. And why does this lose? Well, h takes g5, h takes e5, and simply rook e5, winning the g-pawn and ending up with a winning rook endgame with 2 connected passed pawns. Goff resigned immediately. What a blunder. King g8 instead of king f6. So we see that even at the highest level, elementary mistakes can be made under time pressure and pressure of the situation. But Goff showed his mettle. He came back in the next game. The 2 blitz games were drawn and this match went to Armageddon. And in that Armageddon game, another big blunder was made, this time by Yi. Bishop e4 that he plays here in this screenshot. Let's see why that is a blunder. White U, black Goff, the 9th and final game of this match. You had to win with white. He had 1 extra minute on the clock, but black had draw odds. The game has just started. It's a French defense. Bishop d3 was played, and now Goff played knight h4. And here castling is the move, and nothing is happening. But here, after knight h4, you blundered with bishop e4, as we just saw in the picture. Because what is there against knight takes g2 check? Well, nothing, apart from the fact that white is losing 2 pawns. King f2, and that f-pawn goes as well. d3 was played, knight back to g6, that knight was attacked on f4. And after 11 moves, black is winning. He simply has 2 extra pawns, and there is no compensation at all for white. But Yi showed that he's made of tough stuff. He put in a long think, and then played on as if nothing happened. And after 34 moves, we had this position, and it is suddenly white who is winning. Quite unbelievable. Rook c8 was Goff's last move. Tricky move. If you take it, then your rook on g7 is hanging. But you find a very nice solution. He's going to win a rook with rook g8 check. Lovely move. It's check, so you have to take the rook. Then rook takes c8 check. King f7, and now the rook on g8 is hanging. Knight takes e8 wins a full rook. And white has completely turned this game around. Goff played a few more moves, but then had to resign. He's just a rook down, and his central pawns are not going anywhere. And nothing illustrates better that chess is a very cruel game than this picture of Nikita Goff, minutes after he had to resign the Armageddon game. Another picture which shows Goff devastation. So we are now at the semi-final stage as I'm recording this video of the 2019 World Cup. Ding Liren had beaten Alexander Grishuk, the crowd favorite, and will play his compatriot Yi in the semi-finals. The other semi-finals will be between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, who beat Levon Aronian in the playoff, against Timur Rajabov. We saw him beat Jeffrey Zhang. I'm sure there will be more drama in the semi-finals and the final, and if so, I will make sure to report on it on Chess to Impress. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.